one.
It's Probable Cause Sunday night, and it's not our normal 9:30 p.m. deal. In the studio here with the homebrew studio with Knucklehead, my friend.
Oh my gosh.
Lee. So it's a celebration, Lee, and I appreciate you setting all this stuff up. We're going to talk through a little bit of stuff and why we're here. But welcome. Glad to have you guys in the live chat. We've got a telephone number that you can call in if you want to talk to us. We're going to put you on the screen and let you talk to us live, which will be really cool. If you want to say something in the live chat, we can do all that as well. But it's the recap for 2024. This kind of caps basically a 20-year project for me that started informally 20 years ago. But I got to do a little bit of introduction on who Lee is as a pilot. He and I both have a very strong connection to the aircraft accident scenario, and I met Lee through the death of his father. So we're going to talk real briefly about that. But you talk about a tragic accident. My phone rang one day. What year was that?
It was 2020, August 28th.
2020. My phone rang and they said there's been a twin commander fatal down in Florida. And I said, the weather's fine in Florida. What is going on? So talk us through your dad's accident. That was the first I had heard of that. And right away, I got pictures from the scene. This was before the days I had a YouTube channel or anything like that. Talk us through your dad's accident.
Yeah, and first of all, Dan, super excited to be here with you. I've been a fan follower for a long time, and it's great to be able to be a part of this mission of reducing general aviation fatals. So
you are a part of it, brother.
Yeah, it's a lot of fun, always a great time. So, my father, he chased that American dream of being a pilot.
Right.
He ended up with 25,000 hours at the time of his death. He was 53, and the biggest thing, no matter how many hours you have, is you can never skip. It only takes one time.
Right.
And what happened with my dad, he was an incredible pilot. I mean, just like many people that we know, just absolutely incredible instinct for how to fly the airplane.
Yes.
And he was a cargo pilot going back and forth from the Caribbean. And it just took one time where he had to reposition a plane from Pompano Beach to Opelika. I mean, it's a 5-minute flight.
Yes.
And decided, maybe let's not get fuel. Let's just get fuel at the, back where it's cheaper, right? Cheaper. That's always, I know a lot of us can relate to that. But,
Yes.
But again, it just took one time.
Yes.
He lost an engine over the beach, decided to divert to North Perry. And from there, he lost another engine. Gear down, lots of drag on that twin commander. It was a Shrike. And tried to make it to a golf course around a building. Little did he know that building was an L-shaped building.
Right.
So he went right around the corner and slammed right into that storage unit. There was no explosion, there was no fire, it was a pretty tragic scene.
Oh.
It was a lot of press, a lot of attention at that time. As I'm sure you've seen and have been a part of. But nobody should be in that situation where it's preventable. And that's unfortunately most of our general aviation fatals. I think about 80% are preventable.
It's a little higher than that.
Yeah, I'm sure it is when you take into account maintenance and everything else. But
yeah, so your dad's accident, a super skilled pilot flying a very reliable airplane, just took one mistake, and my phone rang, and within an hour I had video of the crash scene, and I'm sitting there looking at this going, it was before I even know who the pilot was, and 2 people died in the accident, but later I would get to know Lee and understand his family and what his background is. But Lee is our technical genius behind a whole lot of stuff. Tell us a little bit about your company and what you've done. This is a production company. What is the production video stuff that you do for a living? How is all of this? I mean, you can't see it from where you're looking at, but there's like $1 million worth of stuff here. This looks like CNN to me. This is some.
And you were on CNN, so you have a good.
I was on
point.
CNN
a couple times.
Several times.
But yeah, we do commercials. That's about 90% of what we do. My company is called Flying Ostrich Media.
Right.
We do a lot of what we do is in aerospace, space companies, defense companies.
Right.
We film rocket launches every now and then, which is pretty cool. But pretty much any industry. And so it's it's a pleasure to be able to combine the two worlds of mine, aviation and production.
Yeah.
And we kind of took over. This is Holiday Aviation, the flight
Right.
school
Right.
here in Jacksonville.
Yep.
And they've graciously let us gut out this room and turn it into our studio.
No,
for the day.
I own Holiday Aviation now. They gave it to me. I'm now the owner.
You bought it?
Well, they're working for me,
Oh, I see.
is what it is. So, Flying Ostrich Aviation, and has graciously come in here. I wish you could see the complete setup here. But it's a high tech wonder. There are some tech people in this world that are a complete genius, and I am not one of them. So, 7th grade was my senior year. All this stuff is like completely amazing to me. Literally, I shoot my YouTube video with one camera and one source, and I shoot it on Sunday afternoon. I look straight at the camera and I talk, and I tell you what the accents are. That's all I got. That's literally all I got. I got a banjo
Hey, but
on
you
the
do
camera.
a great job.
Well, I appreciate it.
I mean, I think the following and the support that you have, I think exceeds just the production value. I think there's a lot of stories to tell and a lot of lessons to be learned. So
That's right. Well, we appreciate that. I appreciate the fact that you were able to pick up and go on. Let's play the trailer in just a minute. We're going to play the trailer for the documentary that he's made. It's a very short trailer that we're going to play in just a second. He's made a film. Before we do that, I'm going to show you a short trailer. In the big scheme of things here, my quest to work on general aviation accidents and try to figure out what has happened in the past as a way of preventing ones that go on in the future. It started about 20 years ago with the death of a guy that I taught to fly. His name was Brock, and he killed himself in a 172 Day VFR. And I had to carry a casket and be a pallbearer and go to the funeral and speak at the funeral. And everybody asked me, Dan, what happened? I don't know. How do you kill yourself? Day VFR in a long runway in a 172. Good pilot, 400-hour pilot. It was a commercial single engine. How is this possible? That's what started the whole quest. And everything kind of piecemealed on together, and it has turned into an absolute quest here, specifically in the last 5 years. And now for the last 3 years, I've started this tiny little itty-bitty fledgling YouTube channel, which has grown into some followers and some people that have followed this thing. But tonight we're going to unveil the data set that goes with this, and this has been a huge project that has gone on for a long time, and we're going to show that in just a second. But I want to show you where this thing actually started from 5 years ago, because I got the idea to take my idea and put it on YouTube.
yeah.
Now the problem with that is I didn't have a YouTube channel and nobody's going to listen to me. So my idea was to take my stuff and go on somebody else's YouTube channel and see if I could get my AQP concepts on somebody else's channel. And guess what? It worked. I put a bunch of stuff on Flight Chops. He did videos that got millions of views. All that kind of stuff is good. I did this video with Aviation 101. This video I'm going to play right now is from 5 years ago. This is when we were first talking about what the goal is. The goal is lowering the general aviation fatal accident rate. We have a problem. Our general aviation fatal accident rate has held steady at 18 or 19 per month for the last 30 years. We've never flickered off of 18 per month. I got to thinking, that's a little bit high. Maybe we could take this thing and bend it down. So 5 years ago, I went to Aviation 101. I wrote the material. I wrote the stuff. I paid for my own hotel, food. I went to Aviation. I wrote the script for them. I wrote all the stuff and handed them all this stuff. You can have the material if you'll just put it on your YouTube channel. And he did. The series worked really good on Aviation 101. And this is one of the scenes from that. I'm going to show it to you right now. This is the scene from me explaining to Josh Flowers what the actual goal was.
I concluded that if you can forgive his obnoxious guitar playing and random bars and bad manners, he really has this whole grassroots effort thing figured out.
What you and me will eventually see that's going to make it all worthwhile is that accident rate.
We're going to see that fatal accident rate start to decline. It's going to start its descent, and that'll be a satisfying day.
That will.
All right.
So that's where it came from. We were talking about bending the fatal accident rate back then. So the last 5 years, I started the YouTube channel, and we've started pushing this stuff. We've been making tiny little inroads into putting a dent in this. the whole concept here is getting this information out to our pilots that there's a difference between your training and education, which is a head knowledge, versus AQP scenarios, which is response. It's rapid response in the time of crisis. What's your muscle memory, and what are you going to do in the time of crisis? We're going to show you the data set. Let me read you the number here. If you want to call in, we do want to talk to you. If you got a comment or suggestion or just want to say hi, we'll put you on speakerphone. Make your calls brief and try to make your calls short. 904-423-0790 is the phone number if you want to call in. Operators are standing by.
By operator, we mean Meredith at Holiday Aviation.
It sounds better if we say operators.
Yeah, we have so many people standing by.
Yeah, we have 50 operators standing
thousands of people standing by.
So let's play the trailer for your video here. This is a very impressive film video. We're going to show a very short trailer for the work that Lee did in his Wright of Passage film.
All right, let's do it. No one loves flying more than my dad.
Look at this, Leo. Look at this heaven.
2 people were killed when the plane flew right.
Ever since I lost him, it's been really hard not to think about the crash. I know the second I get back in the airplane, I have to put it all behind me until I come home.
Go, spirit of science, and go passage. A mission 2 years in the making is now a reality.
A lot of people.
En Latinoamérica en general, de 10 estudiantes que ingresan al primer año de la educación secundaria, solo se egresan 5.
Mi avión llamado Espíritu de la Ciencia, and I'm flying it all across Latin America, bringing school supplies and STEM education resources to underprivileged kids.
They dare not to dream because they don't know how far their dream will go.
The nebula is right there. La derecha.
I fell in love with talking to people about space, to see the excitement on their faces, spark that curiosity, and sometimes even like the teachers and the adults, they're like, oh, I didn't know that. Really? Like, yeah.
Oh, Papa! It's that spark, you know?
Oh, I can see the light! I see
He does not give up. If there's any way to take something positive out of a tragedy like this, he works even harder.
This is the reason I left NASA.
La verdad me gustó mucho esta misión, ya que muchos creen que las mujeres no pueden ser científicas, si se puede.
I'm hoping we can use this to send a message to young people that you really are our future.
Everyone thinks I know what I'm doing, but at the end of the day, I don't know if I'm coming home.
This is chaos on chaos.
My heart rate's getting a little fast. You should calm down. Any problem over there? Do you need help?
Something happens, he dies alone, and he dies.
Ha sido una de las experiencias más hermosas de mi vida.
¿Qué más que eso? Ya está. Fenomenal.
All right. So, yeah, I mean, that was a super, super special project that we got to put together. It was years of, I mean, literally since my dad's accident, we started working on that project Passage. We were able to fly the Seneca that I flew across the Andes Mountains, 25,000 feet. I mean, just pushing my limit, the airplane's limitations. And we brought, I want to say, about $75,000 worth of school supplies and telescopes to kids across 6 different countries. So 20,000 people along the way. It was incredible. So
congratulations. It's well done. And your filmmaking skills are good. And I can say that because
thank you.
I know what I'm looking at.
Hey, I've seen some videos of yours, and I was like, I need to hire this guy. Maybe he's out of a job. Maybe he wants to work for Flying Ostrich or something. I don't know.
Yeah, well, it is fun. I do enjoy the editing, and the good thing about video is for YouTube, I can write the script, I can write the voiceover, I can talk with the camera and do it straight. I can do it most of the time on one shot, and if I need a guitar part, I can pick up a guitar, write the music, and drop it in, and put it in there ad-free, and it works. Not the greatest, but it does work. If you need a voiceover and a little bit of guitar track, it's easy to drop one in. Most of the time, I record my guitar tracks right off of my cell phone.
Yeah.
And drop the audio into the editor. I mean,
Yeah.
that's how cheesy the whole thing is.
Yeah.
But for whatever reason, it works. All right. We are going to. You need to bump this up a little bit.
No, you're good.
Okay.
You're good.
We're going to look at the data set. I'm going to tell you what the data set is. This project started with a need to see data. My contention is that we can't learn and get better until we figure out what happened to the last guy. Our illustrious NTSB is taking the information, they're hoarding it, they're not giving us a probable cause, they're not giving us a recommendation, and they're keeping all the pictures and data for way too long. By the time they release a report and the pictures, it's way too old. We need more real-time data. So I'm going to introduce real quick the data set, and before I do that, I'm talking about the DTSB. We are a 501c3 nonprofit organization. We sure could use your support. Everybody there is working for free, including me. We don't have anybody on the payroll. There's nobody on the payroll getting paid in any way. The DTSB collects money in and they reimburse for things that we had to purchase in order to get stuff done, but it's not payroll. So not only your contributions to the DTSB are the tax deductible, but you're helping pay the expenses along the way to get these projects done. I feel like the projects are beneficial and people are watching and we are making some progress. I got a couple people I'm going to introduce real quick. Our web guy, I got a web keeper that's in charge of all the tech stuff out there. Peter out in Spanish Fork is our main guy. I want to say thanks to Peter, a good friend, complete genius, once again way above my pay grade. Landon is down here in Florida. He's our graphics guy, does all our graphics, and again, nobody's getting paid for all the work that they do. And then John Choctaw is in Minnesota, and we're going to talk a little bit about John. John.
1 second, Dan. Could I see your microphone?
Yep.
I think we accidentally muted yourself. Can you hand me that pack?
Okay. Technical difficulties.
Yeah. Sorry, everybody. We see your messages. We just pressed a button by accident. There we go.
Good.
Thanks, everybody, for letting us know.
Perfect. Well, I'll review real quick, just in case. Peter out in Spanish Fork is our webmaster, volunteer, working completely on the side, built the website. TheDTSB.org is the website. So we've got all this stuff going. I got a board of directors, 5 guys on the board of directors. I got a CPA firm, Matt Evers up in Nashville, Tennessee, keeps the money, and he's the CPA, does the bookkeeping, all for free. And then I've got John Choctaw up in Minnesota, who I've worked very closely with, that has done the data set. And what this data set is, my idea is that we can only get better by understanding the data and having our data presented to us more in real time. So I'm going to put this data set up on the screen so you can see it. First of all, I'm going to put the website up there. This is the website. Take a look. You should be able to see it on your screen now.
Yeah, I think it's on the other monitor there. So if we... Yeah, there we go. Oh. Hey, Max, you want to help us out with this Mac? I'm a Windows guy, so we tested this out earlier, but that was a few hours ago. So let's see. I'm going to say hello to Max.
Hello, everybody. What are we trying to do?
We're just trying to show the screen.
Yeah, so it's extended. We just need to duplicate that screen.
Okay. You show up?
Let's see. Yeah, there we go. All right, just make that full screen.
There you go.
All right, back in business.
All right, perfect. So this is the webpage, thedtsb.org. I think you should be able to see it on your screen right now. Is that about right? You showing it?
Yeah.
Okay. All right, so here it is. Let's take a look at it. And then you can see our logo here, prevention is no accident. Rehearsal and conditioning. Rehearsal and conditioning is different than training and education. FAA does training and education, which is all good if you don't have a surprise. I do rehearsal and conditioning. Rehearsal is the ground school, and I'm going to teach you about it. Then I'm going to take you up in the airplane. I'm going to beat you up in order over and over and over again till you get the same stimulus and same response. When I do this, you do this. It's Pavlov's dog. The only way I can do it to is put you in the airplane and beat you until you have the proper response correctly every single time. It's the only way to do it. That's conditioning. That's the act of conditioning. If you click on this thing here called See the Data Set, you guys can do this. It's for free. Click on See the Data Set, and here's the data set. DTSB accident data, and I'm going to give you my disclaimer here right now. This is our disclaimer. There's about 20 people in the country working on this entire project as volunteers. We're all volunteers. We're all speculating. Could this information be wrong? It's entirely possible. I remember back in 1981 I made a mistake. Well, actually, back in 1981 I made a mistake thinking that I made a mistake. I had not actually made a mistake, but I thought that I had, is the only thing that actually happened. There could be mistakes in here. It's entirely possible that there could be a mistake in here. However, most of the information is correct. What I've done is here is I've taken each accident for 2024 and I've made a probable cause and a recommendation, something that our NTSB is not doing. There's a probable cause and a recommendation. So I'm going to step through this and show it to you. It's on your screen right now, DTSB accident data. You can go to this thing and it says view accidents, and I'll click on that. And there's our fatal accidents, and there's a map of them right there. If you keep on clicking down, there's a filter box. However, there's a better filter box, and I'll show you that in a second. These are all the accidents that have happened in the year 2024. The one at the top of the list is our first accident in the year 2025. So I'm going to go ahead and click on that. And here's, Max, I need your help again here to open this thing up.
Hey, Max, get over here, por favor. Let's see.
It's not going to full screen here yet.
Let's see, we might be able to just drag this.
There you go.
There we go.
All right. So that's the RV-10 from just a few days ago in Fullerton, California. We're good. We're good. We're good. That's the accident from Fullerton, California. It's an RV-10, November 8757 Romeo. And if I scroll down here, there's a screen. And notice I can blow up on the screen here and show that's the warehouse that it hit. The pins are normally accurate down to about 20 or 30 feet. And then here's the accident latitude, longitude. You can view it on Google Earth. You can view it on SkyVector. There's the N number, the make, vans, model, RV-10, aircraft category, airplane single engine land, amateur built. Yes, it was. There's your pilot information. Reed, Pascal Colin Reed. If you crash an airplane and kill yourself, you're going on this database, and yes, we're going to use your name. We're going to put your name on there. I recommend that your name not go on here. Try to fly a little more carefully and not do this. Now, check this out. Going on down below this here, it's male. Flight school? No. Instructional flight? No. Pilot certification is a private pilot. IFR rating? No. Pilot error? Yes. Pilot medical? Basic med? Pilot incapacitation? No. These are all the blocks that we want to know what the difference is. There's the date, the time. It was day, VMC. On approach, 2 on board. PIC fatality, 1 passenger fatality. No ground fatalities. Total fatalities 2. The NTSB doesn't have a number yet. And then I'm going to read you the probable cause. I've already written the probable cause on this thing. I've already written the probable cause, and I'm going to tell you exactly what this probable cause was. Is it a guess? Yes, it's a guess. It's my speculation, but I'll tell you exactly what I speculated. I've been flying these airplanes for 40 years. I've been teaching, giving instruction, giving dual instruction in these aircraft. Is this my guess? Yes, it is. But if you read this, I think you're going to understand. You're probably going to say Dan's pretty close to correct. All right, I'm going to read it to you here. Here's what it says. The DTSB determines the probable cause of this accident to be pilot error in that the pilot took off from runway 24 and declared to ATC, quote, RV-57 Romeo, immediate landing required, and was given priority for an opposite direction runway 6 landing by local ATC. The pilot then continued on a left downwind for runway 24 and was clearly given the option for either runway with winds reported calm. The pilot then extended his downwind leg and turned a very sharp base to final turn, whereupon the aircraft stalled, spun, and exploded in the top of a local warehouse located 1,216 feet short of the runway, 36 feet to the southwest of the extended center line of the runway. The pilot mishandled the engine abnormal and passed up numerous other options for landing opposite direction and became focused on the runway, neglecting pitch and speed awareness.
What a shame.
Is that a guess? Yes, it is, but I can tell you it's a stall spin, base to final stall spin in the moment of crisis. He had a problem. He'd got his airplane turned around. This was not an impossible turn. He made the turn. He got it turned around, He had runway 6 available. He flew a wide left downwind for 2-4. He's still talking on the radio telling ATC that he's going for 2-4 when they just got done telling him he can do anything he wants.
Yeah.
What's he thinking?
I don't know. I think it's, there's a lot of factors when you're in the heat of the moment like that. But I feel like we see these all too often, and it always comes down to just a lack of recurrent training, lack of preparedness for something. Like you said,
I'm going to give you the word that you're needing. It's not recurrent training, it's recurrent conditioning.
Yeah.
He
Muscle memory.
needs to be conditioned to what to do. He got his training when he became a private pilot. Mm-hmm. Now he needs conditioning to finish him off. Training gives you all the information that you need to know how to fly the airplane under normal conditions. Well, guess what? You're not always going to fly under normal conditions. And guess what? You're going to get handed something. In flight, you're going to get handed something. Mm-hmm. How are you going to handle it? Let's read the recommendation. I wrote the recommendation with this. Here, DTSB recommends, here it is. The DTSB recommends that all pilots of all aircraft rehearse and become conditioned to the numerous AQP scenarios which can cause pilots to become distracted and mishandle the abnormal in the instant that it was presented. Did he become distracted and mishandle his abnormal? Well,
most likely.
Not being disrespectful, I think he mishandled it.
Yeah.
Nothing wrong with the airplane. Weather's perfect, not a cloud in the sky and calm winds, and he stall spun in the top of the warehouse. Is this an unusual accident? No. They're all about the same. Pilot error, he simply was not ready. So let's go back and look at the top of this thing here. I'm going to show you the rest of the website here. Let's go to the very, very top of this thing. If you're showing my screen here, let's go to this button that says Dataset Sort, and I'll click that. Now here's where it gets interesting here. Look at all the spaces that I can sort. If I want to click AQP classification, loss of speed awareness, I click one button and look at all the loss of speed awareness accidents that occurred in 2024. Every single one of those I can click on it and it's going to tell you exactly what the guy did. There's 24 of these loss of speed awareness. These are people who are flying around day VFR, loss of speed awareness. In fact, we'll put that filter in next. Let's take a look at this filter here. I'm going to take this thing and filter it. This is lack of speed awareness, and I'm going to click day and VMC conditions. Still the same number of accidents. Almost every single one of these loss of speed awareness accidents was day VMC. Didn't even involve night or bad weather or stormy conditions. These are day VFR guys flying around and not keeping track of what their speed awareness was. So use this database. I'm going to go back up to the top and show you this thing here. These are all the things. You can stack as many of those in here as you want. Currently I have selected loss of speed awareness in conjunction with day and VMC. If you want to know how many of those guys had an IFR rating, just click the yes box, and there's going to tell you all the guys that were IFR rated. You can sort and slice and dice all of these, and for every single one of them, I'll select a random one by random here and click on it, and it's going to tell you exactly what the deal was. This is the accident for. There you go. This is the Mini M16 271 Bravo Papa, December 9th, 2024 in Foley, Alabama. And you can click down here and see exactly, yeah, you can jump off there. You get the idea. That's the data set. That's what it is. We're going to take up a couple phone calls here in just a minute. If you'd like to call in, I'm going to read the number for you here one more time. It's 904-423-0790.
Oh, wait. There we go. It's on the screen.
It's on the screen? Okay, good.
Dan's like, what is he doing?
And we can definitely take a couple calls. We've got a couple guests in the audience. We're going to do a couple guests here in just a few minutes. And we'd sure like to solicit your support for the DTSB tonight's pledge night. If you want to call in or leave a note on there, anything like that, we sure could use your help on the support. All this data and work and travel, it takes a tremendous amount to pull all this stuff together. We could use some help. not on making money. There isn't anybody getting rich on this. We're just trying to get some expenses covered so that we can continue to do all this. I think we're going to make a difference in general aviation going forward by lowering this rate and having the data available. Let's take a...
So real quick, Dan, what is the difference between the data set and maybe some of the other resources out there? I know we talked about Catherine's report, which is no longer a thing, but what is the difference ultimately that this is going to make as opposed to just the NTSB reports?
Well, good question. There's currently only a couple sources out there. There's an organization called Flight Safety Foundation. That's not the Air Safety Foundation. That's Flight Safety Foundation, and they list. That's basically a wiki page which shows the date, time, and end number, and a little bit of data for each accident. But there's never any conclusive information. There's never a probable cause or recommendation or anything like that in that. It just lists it line by line, and that's free. That's updated pretty quickly. Normally within a day of any accident, fatal or not, that's listed. So that's one good source that we've got for doing those accidents. The other source that we have is the NTSB. However, most of their stuff lacks woefully behind. And if you look in the last 10 years of NTSB data, they've got 11,000 accident investigations, and they've only got 13 recommendations. I think we're going to take a call right now. One of our operators that has been standing by.
One of our 1,000 operators.
One of our thousands of operators.
This is Mario from Thousand Oaks, California. He's a pilot, and he wants to tell you about an accident he had in 1969.
Okay. Hello, Mario.
Hello, Dan. How you doing?
I'm good. How are you?
Nice talking to you. I'm good, thank you. I just wanted to share that I watch your show, and of course, I like what you're doing with the various scenarios to try to avoid getting yourself killed. I just wanted to tell you that back in 1969, when I was just like 21 years old, I was just beginning to, learn about flying, and so I was part of this group of guys in Van Nuys Airport in California, and we were all going to go to the Reno Air Races, and I was to ride along in an old Aviation that my friend had been working on, and we flew in a formation of 3 airplanes. We took off out of Van Nuys when it was dark, very early in the morning.
Right.
And just as the sun was coming up, we were over Mammoth, and the engine quit on the airplane.
Wow.
Frantically tried to restart it, and nothing. I wasn't the captain. I mean, I wasn't flying it.
Right.
I was not a pilot quite yet. I was just learning. And we frantically tried to get it restarted. Couldn't start the engine.
And Mario, what year was this?
Pumped the gear.
Was it 1969?
1969 was it?
1969.
And I guess everybody made it out okay?
Yeah, we did, because we pumped the gear real hard to get a hydraulic pressure to release the landing gear, and we finally were able to, just as we were touching down on Highway 395 in the mountains by Mammoth, the engine started again, the throttle was in all the way, and he took off again, and just the left tire kissed the road.
Wow.
And we flew up to Reno, and we discovered that the day before, the other pilot had drained all the gas out of the tip tanks, and then when they refilled it, there was an airlock.
Yep.
Anyway, so I just wanted to share that experience, but the point being is, sometimes you just can't predict what was going to happen, but, knowing your way, it was just a learning experience.
It was. Well, I appreciate you calling in. I'm glad you guys made it out of there, and the good thing was you took off after the sun came up, so you had at least a little bit of daylight to find some place to aim towards, and that's a very good thing. Mario, thank you for calling in, okay?
Thank you. Bye-bye.
All right, bye-bye.
Thanks, Mario. It's almost it's like a matter of when something will happen, not if.
Yeah, it's going to happen, and it could be fuel, vapor lock, or any one of those kind of things. You can't really count on things not happening. All right, we are going to talk. We got a couple guests we got to get in here before we absolutely run out of time here. But I got a guest here that we're going to talk about, because one of the AQP scenarios that have been near and dear to my heart is called the VMC rollover.
Yep.
Now, you fly a twin, a Seneca. This whole VMC rollover thing is huge, and it continues to happen. We're doing VMC rollover fatals on check rides because of the VMC demo requirement on a check ride, but we're also losing twins, piston twins, and even turboprops due to loss of thrust on takeoff when one side goes to zero thrust or negative thrust and the other side's producing full thrust, and that creates the turning moment. So I'm going to have my friend Charlie come up here. Charlie, come up here and grab a seat here. I wish I had a more informal way of bringing guests online, but that's just the way we roll here. Charlie showed up here yesterday. I had not met Charlie before, but fascinating story here on Charlie. And scoot on in here, nice and close. There you go.
Don't be afraid to.
No need fondling. There you go. Well, if you want to fondle my knee, I think that'd be fine. I'll take it. Tell me what year you soloed.
1961.
1961. So he's been around, been flying a little bit, a ton of flight time and a whole bunch of airplanes, including DC-3s, Beech-18s, Learjets, turboprops, everything. He's been all over the world. He's got more real-world experience, and he's still alive. So he must have done something right. The VMC rollover. He got to telling me a story that I wanted to relate to you, and I'm going to have him tell you in his own words. But you were a flight safety instructor at one point in Wichita, Kansas, true?
That's true.
And he was out there in the simulator. Now, keep in mind, Wichita Flight Safety has the, all the flight safety places, CAE, flight safety, all that kind of stuff. They all have the full motion simulators. They all do the basic same thing. But they've got a simulator bay out there. And tell us what happened on runway 1 right at Wichita that day when you were out there working for that simulator company. Tell us what happened.
Okay. On that particular day, actually, I was at home.
Right.
That was my simulator bay.
Right.
And those happened to be caravans, those 3 simulators.
Right.
There were 20-something simulators total up through the citation. This is a citation training center. And a Beech 200 departed that had just come out of a series of inspections, and it was going over to Mena, Arkansas for paint and interior, and single pilot, and he took off to the north on runway 1 right, and immediately after takeoff he told the tower that he had lost an engine. He didn't seem to have controlled the aircraft because it rolled over, barely cleared the hangar of Signature Aviation,
right,
and went straight into our simulator building and blew up 26 seconds from takeoff to impact.
Now we're talking about a King Air 200.
Pretty big airplane.
Pretty big airplane.
A lot of power on each side.
And a lot of power on each side. Yeah. And on the ATC tape, I pulled up the transcript of the tape today. He told Tower he lost his left engine. This is right after rotation. Now, he doesn't retract the gear. He never lowers the nose, and the airplane rolls over. Classic VMC roll. How ironic is this, that the facility designed to teach you not to VMC roll got struck by an airplane doing a VMC roll. Tell us how many people inside the facility got killed that day.
We lost a Russian student, a Russian translator, and one of the flight safety instructors.
Wow. Yes.
I knew 2 of the instructors were my friends.
Right.
We had 140 or so instructors in the building, but
right.
in this particular instance, and they were trapped in the simulator. The airplane ended up on the roof of the building, and all of the fuel, it had a full bag of fuel, was raining down and burning. And so it immediately turned the entire sim bay, which is the size of a pretty large hangar, into an inferno. Yeah. And it melted the simulator, and the sim instructor that survived attempted to save the Russian translator, but when he stepped out of the simulator, the boarding ramp did not come down, even though they had punched the crash button, which should have stopped the simulator, brought it down to a lower level, and brought the little bridge down so you could walk to it. It wasn't there, but he couldn't see anything because it was just dense fire and smoke.
Wow. How is this for ironic?
So how ironic, yeah.
How ironic that an airplane takes off and crashes into the building that's designed to keep you from crashing on takeoff. We didn't lose 1 person that day, we lost 4. The pilot got killed and 3 on the ground got killed, went right straight through the roof of the training facility. VMC roll. Tell me what you think about my VMC roll concept for the AQP scenario. what I'm advocating pilots do as far as getting ready. Have you seen my VMC roll demo takeoff video that I published showing you not the wrong way to do it, showing you the right way to do it? Have you seen that video?
I may not have seen that particular video. I've watched 90% of your videos. I might not have seen that particular one.
Well, you need to go see this one, because on takeoff, we chop a mixture in a twin Comanche. We chop a mixture, put the gear up, and fly straight ahead. Lower the nose, and we fly VYSE.
Actually, with the mixture, too. You shut it off with the mixture.
Okay, that one I saw.
Yeah.
That one I saw. That's with your son.
Yes.
Yeah,
Now,
okay, I saw that
Made
one.
your stomach drop. But
we're going to go on and talk, because Charlie's got a little bit of further information. Tell me what your opinion is. I've been beating this thing up about DMMS. Tell me what your concept is. DMMS for general aviation. What do you think of the concept?
We're in complete concert about that. That is, people are not keeping the stall margin for their configuration. They're not aware of it. Haven't thought about it. DMMS is going to give you at least 30% protection above stall.
Yes.
And you're going to maintain that speed, just like Dan has been saying in his video. You're going to maintain that speed until you're rolled out on final. You could say you're in the groove to land. And then you can now slow the airplane down to what we would call VREF, or 30% above stall speed for that configuration. But up to that point, you need to maintain that target speed. You should have your airspeed indicator marked.
Yes, you should.
I call it, treat your single-engine airplane like a multi-engine airplane.
Yes, because the multis have them marked.
Yeah, they have them marked,
Right,
so your single does not.
Yes. So we got on the screen here right now, I took an airspeed indicator and I marked it. I put 2 marks on there. Now, you notice back in the old days, airspeed indicators were black and white. They were purely black and white, no color. You had to memorize every single number on there. Early 70s, somebody got wise and said, let's start putting some color. What's the colors on every airspeed indicator out there today? Well, you got white, yellow, green, blue, red. Each one depicts something. It tells you some information so that your brain doesn't have to associate a number with the number that you're seeing. It tells you in depiction form what speed you're at. They put a blue radial and a red radial for multi-engine airplanes a few years ago. The blue line now, or the blue radial, the little mark there, that's VYSE, and the red radial is VMC. Don't fly below VMC. That's your minimum controllable speed, preventing the VMC rollover. If you want to climb, it's a VYSE thing. That's your best L over D. It's going to climb at VYSE if you do it. What's the disadvantage in marking an airspeed indicator on any airplane? What is the disadvantage of marking a DMMS?
None.
There can't be.
No disadvantage.
There can't be. I'm showing you on the screen here. That's the one that I marked right there. Here's the one that's that I got marked on the. That's the twin Comanche that's in that video right there. That's VREF and DMS. And take a look at this. Here's your traffic pattern. I maintain that in the traffic pattern, you should be a DMMS airplane. Look at that. On crosswind, your DMS. On the downwind, your DMS. On base, your DMS. And base to final, your DMS. If the RV-10 guy in California had maintained DMMS and nose down all the way around the corner, he would not have had a problem. Once you roll out on final, now you're a VREF airplane. So there's your diagram for how that works. It all gets back to this maneuvering speed. Maneuvering speed. You know, we're in general aviation, but we got the same goal as the airline people. We're all still trying to stay alive. We're all still trying to stay alive. You know what the lifeblood of the airlines is maneuvering speed. You go to the airlines or the commuters, that's all you're going to hear about is maneuvering speed. And it's not a maximum, it's a minimum. Don't you even get close to maneuvering speed. Maneuvering speed is not a stall speed. Maneuvering speed is the minimum speed that's going to give you a 30% buffer. How come we don't have that in general aviation?
Yeah.
Why don't we have a min maneuvering speed in general aviation? It would be so easy to do and honor it. And then for guys like me who fly a lot of different airplanes, a lot of different airspeed indicators, I stick that thing on there. I can fly around and take one look at it and know how am I doing. 7th grade was my senior year. I am not bright enough to remember all those numbers. I can take one look at the airspeed indicator and see exactly how I'm doing. I'm not getting anywhere close to DMS. You ought to see Dylan when he flies. He is a DMS kid. He won't, no matter what, he's not getting anywhere close to DMS.
Oh yeah, I've seen his videos.
We don't teach stall and spin recovery, because what's your spin recovery technique from 600 feet?
0.
Brace.
Impact. Brace or impact.
Okay, it's nice to go up to 4,000 feet and practice stall or spin recovery, but that's not where it's going to happen to you. You think because you carry that little spin endorsement in your pocket that it's going to help you. It is not at 600 feet. You're going to get
That's most likely where it's going to happen, too.
That's where it's going to happen. prevention is all we got. We got to prevent and put more effort into preventing these things. So maneuvering speed there, training versus conditioning. If you got this slide on the screen there, training versus conditioning, I've beat this up already a lot. This is training versus conditioning. FAA is training, Dan is conditioning. AQP, the airlines, I did not invent it. I did not come up with this. This is not an idea. Airlines came up with this entire concept all their own. We're not going to train our pilots. They've already been trained. By the time a pilot gets to the airline, he's already been trained. We don't need to teach them how to do a steep turn. They already know that. We need to condition them what their proper response in the time of crisis is. We don't have that for general aviation at all.
Yeah.
And, you know, I was telling Charlie here a little bit ago, I was at Wichita and happened to run into a guy flying a Bonanza and sitting there eating lunch with him, and he pulled up a bar stool at the lunch place and sat next to me, and I asked him, I said, "What, did you fly in that Bonanza?" And he said, "Yes, I did." I said, "Well, when you came in the Bonanza, what speed did you fly on the downwind?" He goes, "Well, I fly 100 on the downwind, 90 on base, and 80 on final." And I said, "Well, that worked, I guess, because you're here. 100, that sounds like a big fat number. What is 100? Is that like a scientific number? Is that 100.07? Or what is?" He goes, "No, that's just what I always do, and it always works." General aviation pilots don't have any idea what their min speed is, what their min maneuvering speed. There is an actual number. It's 1.404 times your clean stall speed. Will give you some protection. Is having an AOA gauge in a GA airplane a good idea? I think it is. Our problem is we're too poor to afford them, and nobody's going to buy an AOA. If you want to put an AOA airplane gizmo in your airplane, that's perfectly good. Up until then, you've already got an airspeed indicator. Keep the nose down, carry a little bit of extra speed, and don't bust min maneuvering. Charlie, thank you very much for coming out.
Thank you, Dan.
I appreciate that. It's been a pleasure to get
You
to know.
bet.
Master pilot, he's been a 50-year master pilot for 10 years.
Yep.
So that's a 60-year master.
Yeah.
How'd that happen?
How'd that happen?
Yeah, how'd you do this all being 42 years old?
That's it. Well, I just gave my age in Celsius.
Yeah.
There we go.
Good
Thank
to
you,
see
Dan.
you. But yeah, I think it's all about continuous reevaluation, right? And I think a lot of us, especially my generation of you know, people coming out of flight schools, doing crazy stuff, taking, you know, I remember I was 16 doing 0G maneuvers at max gross weight, and you just have to consistently reassess your flying to keep yourself alive. And I think the like DMMS, even more than that, keeps the reaction time there for you to not spin the airplane out of control.
Exactly.
So
I'm going to put one more slide up on the screen here. This came out of a magazine here a few years ago. I thought it was pretty good. If you can put that on the screen, I'll read it here. It says flight reviews mostly fail in their job of providing ongoing safety because CFIs refer back to the ACS, which is our Airman Certification Standard, which is known territory, but really a training and testing document. The ACS was not designed for flight proficiency. In the flight review, we need to address what is harming already certificated pilots as they fly every day, the killers. The ACS, learning to fly, getting your pilot's license, guess what? You're going to do a steep turn, you're going to do an S-turn across the road, you're going to do all these maneuvers, that's fine. That shows the FAA that you can control the airplane, but they don't ever test you on the surprise and the things that are about to happen to you once you get your pilot's license. This thing came right out of a magazine. I thought it was pretty good. Yeah, we're using the ACS for flight reviews, and you only need a flight review every 2 years, an hour of ground school and an hour of flight, dual flight instruction received, going up and practicing a steep turn, and they think you're good to go. Was the guy in Fullerton, California good to go?
No.
He was not.
He was not.
Absolutely not. And what a shame, too.
Yeah. Totally preventable.
Totally preventable.
Nothing wrong with the airplane.
If you look at the accident database, the data set, if you click through there, there's a little toggle that you can put for pilot error, yes or no. Most of them are pilot error. And I'm going to define what pilot error is. In his case, the engine either failed or quit him or rolled back. He had an engine problem. Is that pilot error? Yes, it is, because he didn't handle it. You're going to have an engine problem by virtue of the fact that you're a pilot and you're in an airplane. That's what you sign up for when you go up in an airplane.
Yep.
You have signed up for rolling the roulette wheel. You're going to get something. Engine failures go hand in hand with being a pilot. Are you ready for it? He launched in his airplane and was not ready for what got handed to him. NTSB is going to take 3 years and try to put the airplane back together and figure out where the spring is in the butterfly valve that closed that inadvertently shut off the air supply to the carburetor. I don't care. I don't care what failed. I want to know what the pilot did as a response. In fact, I have developed a new gizmo that I'd like for you to help me market.
All right.
You want to see it?
Yes.
All right. This is great. You guys check this out. This is going to be good. This is the Stratus, and I've hooked an additional feature in here. When you put this inside your airplane, this is a random number generator. It's going to kill your airplane on one out of every 5 flights randomly. It'll just kill your engine. So it's built into this, and if you'll buy this and put it in your airplane, you're guaranteed to get an engine failure. We want to make our engines less reliable.
Yeah.
Yes. Let's make them less.
Great training.
Let's make them less reliable. I want you to take off knowing that you got this thing on board, and 1 out of 5 is going to quit you. You better know where you're going and what you're going to do, because if you're not, and if you get surprised, so you can order this from Stratus. You can buy the module from me for $19.95, so you don't forget to order before midnight tonight. Operators are standing by.
I don't know, Dan. I think there's some funky planes out there that don't even need that.
They don't even need this. But we base our whole lives under the assumption that the engines are reliable and they aren't going to fail us. They are not reliable and they are going to fail us. What we're doing in this data right here is we're showing that we're having more flying, more incidents. We've proven we've taken more incidents and converted the incident to being less fatal. The incident that last week would have been fatal, more and more of them are diverting to being an off-field landing with damage, and you scraped up a gear and you had some problems and you had to get towed out of muddy field. Fine. Did everybody live? Yes. Yes, everybody lived. We got the same amount of accidents, more flying going on. We're converting more of our incidents to becoming less fatals. I'm going to put that screen back up. Well, you can do it yourself, but the fatal accident per rate is the metric that we're going for here. I've already previously mentioned 18 per month is what we've had for forever. We've taken this a steady stair step down. So we did 18, 17, 16, 15. Last year, when we closed out 2023, the goal was 14 per month. We didn't quite make it. We hit it 14.3 for the month for 2023. This year, the goal was 13, and I thought there's no way we're ever going to make 13 per month on an average. We beat it. We ended up at 12.66. This has been a steady decline in the general aviation fatal accident rate, with the total number of incidents actually increasing. That means the percentage of fatals is getting lower and lower every time. We're after the preventable ones. If you step to that database, almost every single one of these are pilot-induced accidents that are totally preventable.
Yeah.
Via conditioning, rehearsal and conditioning is going to absolutely fix it. So,
and I think too, as an aircraft owner, and I'm sure you know this too, you're maintaining 2 machines. You got this airplane that needs to run at the best of your maintenance ability 100% of the time. And also you, right? Like there's a lot of conditioning, there's a lot of maintenance that you have to do, whether it's doing that conditioning, getting familiar with the airplane, practicing these scenarios, saying what if. I actually had a situation where I was flying a Seneca, and I hadn't flown for a while. I was just doing night currency on my own. And I just thought to myself, it's like, okay, what if my baggage door opens on takeoff?
Right.
That's exactly what happened. Yeah. That's exactly what happened. And I, maintain. It's very easy to freak out. It's very easy to fall behind the airplane. But it's not just getting that certificate and jumping in like a car. It's a lot of maintenance on both the human aspect and the machine aspect.
It's especially on the human aspect of it. Yeah. Our machines, are less reliable, and they're going to be less reliable. Got another important call coming in.
Here we go.
Who is this one from, Meredith?
Hang on a second here. This is Albert from Hattiesburg, Mississippi, and he wants to tell you about his LOTOT in 1996.
Oh, a LOTOT.
Albert, how you doing?
Hey, doing great. How about yourself?
Good. I appreciate you calling in. You got to condense your story down to about 2 minutes, but you had a LOTOT. That's a loss of thrust on takeoff. Day or night?
It was during the day. I rarely flew at night. This was up in Blue Ash, Ohio, India Sierra Zulu.
Right.
but it's closed now. They don't have it no more up there. It's outside of Cincinnati here.
Right. And tell me what happened.
I had that happen right after takeoff.
About how high were you?
I was accelerating out VY when it happened.
Right.
Wow.
And the stall horn started going off, so I immediately pushed the nose over and leveled off. And I sit there and I watched my airspeed, and when it would build up a little bit, I would just ease it up gently and just kept the plane straight because I knew if I turned, it was over.
Right. Did you end up landing off field?
No, I ended up landing on field. The crazy thing about it was I was trying to gain enough altitude because I was over a golf course, and it was a really grown-up area there.
Right.
And there wasn't a good spot to put it. I just focused on getting that airplane, keeping it in the air, flying it level, milking it just slowly, and gaining some altitude where I can put it into a diving turn and go back.
Mm-hmm.
Well,
and that was what I focused on. And just before I started to make my turn, when I got up to 1,000 feet, it kicked back in and took off. Well, I took it directly back to Blue Ash and parked it.
Yeah, I would too. I think you probably ought to go have that looked at.
Yeah. Do you know what happened to the? Do you know why you lost that power?
Well, I don't. I rented that airplane from a company there at Blue Ash, and I didn't care. I was just glad to be back on the ground.
Yep.
And
Let them deal with
I
it.
bought into a partnership out of Lumpkin Field there in Cincinnati after that, and flew a Cessna 182 out of there, and I quit renting after that.
Yeah.
You got to know the airplanes are flying. Absolutely.
I agree. Well, I appreciate you calling in, brother, and I'm glad you're alive, and I'm glad you're able to call in, and we appreciate you watching and hanging with us, and pass the word on for us for lowering the nose, low-tot, lower the nose, and figure out someplace to put that thing.
Well, I appreciate everything you guys do for the aviation community. It's I've seen it's been a great help for the community.
Good. Well, I appreciate you calling in, sir.
Okay, thank you, sir. You have a good one.
All right, good night. Thank you.
Wow. Yeah, some things you just got to be prepared for, and luckily it fired back up, I guess.
Yeah, absolutely. We got a couple more people we're going to talk to. Meredith is going to be next. She also doubles as our telemarketing prompter person. And then I've got a very unique visitor going to be here in just a minute, whose mother flew with Amelia Earhart, and she was not only a wing walker, she was a parachute jumper and a pilot back in the 30s. And we've got some screen graphics we're going to show when he comes up here in just a minute. But in the meantime, we're going to talk to Meredith. Meredith is the part owner. Yep, coming in here. Yep.
Yay, Meredith. Hey. From Holiday Aviation.
Holiday Aviation. They've been kind enough to host us down here and help us out with all that. Oh, looky there, AQP for GA.
See?
Wow.
We're all about the AQP for GA.
There you go.
I love that hashtag.
We got quite a few
Looks like a tail number.
flight schools around the country that they're on board. Holiday Aviation is one of them. They give their students AQP ab initio training from day one, start teaching about it, teaching the flight maneuvers. How much extra does it cost a student to learn about AQP in order to get a pilot's license? You're a Part 61 operation. How much extra are they having to pay to get their AQP education?
Zero.
Yeah.
Zero.
What's the disadvantage in giving them the education as they go, so they already know about a rejected takeoff, and they know about low tot, they know about this kind of stuff? There is no disadvantage to doing this stuff. I mean, what's your take? Why are these schools not on?
Yeah, why is it not the standard?
61 schools. Why are they not on board with this?
I think it just comes down to not really thinking outside the box and not really putting your heart into caring about the customer. You know, Dana, why don't you come up here and say hi?
Okay.
My husband,
Dana.
co-owner of the flight school here. We have folks that fly with us, and we meet their families. You know, there was just a gentleman in here earlier. He brought his 3 kids in to fly with him.
Yeah.
You know, these are human beings. These are people that we want them to land and go home to their families, just like I want to land and come home to my family. And AQP is a way that we can help give everybody a fighting chance of making that happen. You know, the ACS, like Dan said, this is not reality. This is a dog and pony show to satisfy a federal requirement.
Yeah.
This is not going to help
Yeah.
you stay alive,
all
but
this is going to do is
AQP
get
is.
you past your check ride.
Right.
All this is going to do is give you a ticket to go out and kill yourself. That's all this is
That's
for.
right.
I almost compare it to the American medical system. We're very good with
Don't get me started.
We have the best emergency rooms in the world, but there is zero prevention.
Right.
Zero prevention.
Right.
Exactly. And you asked, how much extra does it cost for a student pilot to learn AQP? Nothing. And we really just want to sell it to folks that, look, if you just take the time, and most of AQP, by the way, can be learned at home for free.
Yeah.
This is stuff that you have to it's a mental game.
Yeah.
Right? Flying and keeping the airplane under
right.
control isn't hard. You're doing that already, folks.
Yeah.
This is about the mental process of thinking ahead. Okay, what am I going to do if?
Yeah.
How can you can chair fly AQP? You can sit, and we tell our customers to do this. Look, you get on the schedule, you see if there's an airplane available, it's sitting in the hangar and nobody's flying it. You sit your butt in there and you practice this stuff for free.
Even at home.
Yeah.
Even at home.
Sit in a chair like this.
And so it's not rocket science, but people just have to commit to it. It's almost like a lifestyle that we're promoting here,
It's
right?
exercise.
This is
You're exercising
This
your-
is an
your instinct.
aviation mentality. This is
Well, keep in mind when AQP came to the airlines.
philosophy.
When AQP came to the airlines fought it. When CRM came to the airlines fought CRM. Big time. Didn't want it. Captains didn't want it, did not want CRM. When AQP first showed up, everybody said that's ridiculous, we're not participating, we're not doing it. Now, you mention AQP to any airline pilot, they'll say, yes. What's it done for the airline safety record? Fixed it. Absolutely fixed it. You know when you go to take a check ride at an airline? We don't do steep turns anymore. As an airline captain, I have never been flying along on an airliner and got on the PA and said, folks from the flight deck, things are not looking good. I'm going to have to perform a Shondell
Exactly.
to get us out of this. Thank you, because I did the Shondell, and
On your commercial check ride.
and
It
this
was
is
so
this
awesome.
is this is going to help us. So hang on, the Shond. Now, we know you know how to do a steep turn. All that's good. Airlines train and condition their pilots for the scenarios that they know are going to happen, specific to their airline, their equipment, their pilots, their routes, and their cities. This is the scenario we're going to give them. Let's give them the Dallas maneuver. Let's give them the Reno maneuver. Let's give them the Orlando maneuver. And we all know them by their little pet names. Let's give them the Dallas one. Oh, we know what that is. But we step through those. They have nothing to do with it. When I got to the airlines and they wanted me to start teaching AQP, I said, that's ridiculous. You can't do that. We're going to teach our airline guys in those days with the PTS. PTS, that's how it is. Now, we took our PTS and we threw it out the window. And I said, what do you do for check rides? Well, we wrote our own. I said, you can't write your own.
I wish we could.
You can't write your own check. Well, we did. Every airline, American, Delta, United, they write. Literally, they sit down at the tables. What should we give them this year?
Yeah.
What should we give them?
Well, you know what, Dan? Our pre-solo knowledge test and our pre-solo evaluation for our student pilots goes way above and beyond anything that the FAA mandates.
And it should.
And I think that's why our pilots are really prepared.
And we agree on that. Now, I got a bone to pick with Marathon, and we're going to get into this right now. Come on.
Bring it, Dan.
I might need to go.
So the debate has been the impossible turn, and Meredith, I respect her as a professional aviator, flight instructor, and a flight school owner. She has brought a lot of bringing Dan in off the ledge on a lot of things and caused me to stop and rethink some things, and that's why we're going to talk about this. Rightfully so. I built a lot of videos, and I beat it into people really hard. I even wrote this song, Straight Ahead, Straight Ahead, Straight Ahead. Going straight ahead is a good idea sometimes. Turning around, the impossible turn is possible sometimes. Maybe that is the correct thing to do. So it's not a matter of her being right or me being right. Tell us what your view is for pilots getting ready to push the throttle forward. We can't say that when you push the throttle forward, going straight ahead is always the correct answer. I can't say that. And we can't say that when you're getting ready to take off and push the throttle forward, that turning around and coming back is the correct answer. We don't know that. What is the correct answer?
The correct answer is every pilot in their airplane at their airport needs to look at their data and consider density, altitude, runway length,
Yes.
engine performance, and all these things, and decide in advance, what am I going to do at X, Y, and Z point?
Yes.
Right now, I've never flown a jet, I've never flown an airliner, but I know enough about how you guys operate that
Right.
you've got like V1, V2, there's like certain stages during the takeoff roll, right? Where
Yes.
you have self-imposed checkpoints of what am I going to do at X, Y, and Z point during the departure, right?
Yeah.
And so, again, in general aviation, we can do the same thing. I can say, okay, if I'm at 200, 300, 400 feet,
Yeah.
and based on what I have available to me ahead
Yeah.
of me
Yeah.
in my airplane, I'm either going to land straight ahead, obviously if I can,
Yeah.
that's a no-brainer, but there are places where you can't. And this airport, Craig Airport,
Yeah.
where we live and breathe every day, where our staff and all
Yeah.
our pilots fly, we are being encroached upon and have been for decades
Right.
by, population.
Yep.
There's stuff around here that you don't want to land on.
So the
and
point
at a
is-
certain point in a single engine airplane or a twin or whatever it is that you're flying, turning around under control may be the better option than landing straight ahead into, let's say, the roof of a Dunkin' Donuts.
Could be, and,
You
I,
know?
and, I,
Fly-through.
and I'll
Right.
grant you that. I will say that normally, with all the arguments I get with Meredith, I'm normally always right. We agree on that, right? I'm normally. I'll tell you a real quick story from the airlines. You know, the first time I made it onto the 777, 777 always flies with 4 pilots, 2 captains and 2 co-pilots. So you go through training, you get your type rating, you go out here for this first trip. It's an IOE trip. There's 2 captains and 2 co-pilots. This captain sits in the left seat. I'm the relief pilot. I'm in one of the jump seats. As we're taxiing out, he says, "Dan, pull out the QRH." That's our quick reference handbook. And I'm thinking, there's something wrong. He said, "Pull out the QRH, open it to engine failure page." And I said, "For what?" And he said, "Because we're planning on having an engine failure." And then he turned to the other guy. He said, "You'll dump fuel on my command." And he turned to the other guy and he said, "You'll take ATC and you fly the airplane. I'm going to coordinate this." He was already briefing the engine failure, a heavyweight 777 takeoff. Who's going to do what? He wants somebody to have the QRH open to the correct page, ready to read.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
That, and I was sitting there thinking, are we really going to do this? I mean, is there? And then we take off. There's absolutely nothing happened. I'm thinking, wow. But
you were ready.
Everybody
Right.
knew their job,
Right.
and it turned out to be that on the 777, that was pretty much SOP. Heavyweights, where everything's critical. You're going to need to dump fuel. You're going to need to do the checklist. You're going to need to do this thing. Who's going to check for fire? Who's going to shut an engine down? Who's going to talk to ATC? Who's going to talk to the company? Who's going to talk to the flight attendants? Who's going to do what? Well, we already decided that. He already decided we're having an engine failure fire on takeoff. Here's your jobs. Let's do it. How come we can't have that concept in general aviation, even single pilot? Here's what's going to happen. Here's what I think is going to happen. Here's what you do.
Yeah.
Here's what I'm going to do. Here's where I'm going. Here's the checklist I'm going to do, and I'm ready. If you take off and make it to 2,000 feet and nothing happens, well, it's time to drink coffee.
Yeah, exactly.
Right.
Turn on the Bluetooth.
Bonus
yeah.
price.
We're all good. Well, thank you very much again for hosting
Thank
us.
you.
Dana,
You're
I'm
welcome.
I'm glad you got to see
See
me.
you guys. Thanks for
Very good. All right, we're. I'm gonna check our time here. How are we doing on a live stream here? Is there?
We have 503 people with us right now.
Good.
Do you want to run through maybe some of the questions that we've been getting?
Yes. Yes.
Let's start with. Let's see. I can scroll back here. We got a bunch, and they're kind of scattered here.
And if you'd
a
like
lot
to,
of great stories, by the way.
Good.
A lot of people have really great stories and input on everything that's been said. But somebody asked why, on let's say a multi-engine airplane, why aren't the controls, I guess, different so that if there was like smoke in the cockpit, you can feel which one was the left or the right? Why is it not more tactile in that sense? I just thought that was a super interesting point. I mean, obviously, you can tell which one is on which side because you have the props feel different than a mixture knobs, but.
Yeah, well, there's a bunch of knobs and a bunch of switches, and when you sign up to be the pilot, you check the
You gotta
box.
know where it is.
Your application was for pilot. You're gonna have to look at those knobs and gauges and switches and figure it out and be ready. And the bigger the airplane, the more complicated they are. And there's a lot of buttons and switches and knobs to monitor.
Yeah.
We'll bring Woody up here next. We got My friend Woody's got a fascinating story here. He's going to be in the hot seat here, and we're only about 10 or 15 minutes from finishing up here. I want to say thanks for joining the live stream. If you got anybody that wants to call here, the phone number is 904-423-0790. I'll put you on speakerphone. If you're still alive, that means that you're able to make a phone call, which is good. If you can afford to make a donation, a tax-deductible donation to the DTSB, it's a 501c3. Your donations are tax deductible. It helps us with the expenses. If you take a look at the amount of work that we've put into videos, the data set, all that kind of stuff, I want to give once again a special shout out to my friend John Choctaw up in Minnesota who built this. He's got a fantastic data company. This is what he does for a living, is build that thing. Maybe your company needs some data built or something like that. But John has worked very closely with us and did a really nice job. The data set is brand new, even though the data in there is for the entire year 2024. It took us a little while to build that and get it entered and get it constructed. The beautiful thing is that going forward, now we just add accidents in real time, one at a time as they occur. So that's pretty easy to keep up. It's like cutting your grass. If you ever get behind on cutting your grass, it's a bad job. If you keep your grass cut, it's not hard to cut your grass. But you ever let that go like 4 weeks, you've got a real problem. So keeping up with the data is going to be something that we have to do. If you'd like to be a volunteer for the DTSB, we're always looking for more volunteers. I need some regional managers for DTSB in the country. We've already got quite a few people volunteering in various different capacities. If you'd like to volunteer your time to help with that, we could sure use help. Frankly, I'll tell you straight up, the formation of the DTSB and the 501c3 and my board of directors has been the largest workload relief on me. Previous, it was 100% me buying, paying for all this stuff, traveling, doing 100% of this stuff for no pay. It was huge. Now that I got this many volunteers, and even this trip like this, DTSB is probably going to reimburse me for my expenses that I incurred to get down here and stay in Jacksonville, Florida. So it's not so much out of pocket. I won't make any money, but I'll at least have my costs covered to come down here, which is absolutely huge. This is my friend Woody, and Woody's mom was a very, very unique person, and I wish I could have met her. And thank you for coming out. You and Amy have been friends and followed and supported, and I just want to tell you how much I appreciate that.
It's a pleasure to be here. You're doing a great job.
And how long have you been a pilot?
I guess about 40 years now.
40?
You know, the time passes. 45.
Yeah. Wow. And how long?
45 years.
How long have you owned a twin Comanche?
40 of that.
40.
Yeah.
So I guess you saw my twin Comanche video.
Well, I was impressed, and that was some piloting. I have not. I didn't know that could be done, but I'll tell you, it was a lot to learn. It was great. Yeah, that was really something. Cutting the engine on the runway. That's something.
How long was that runway?
That's something.
It was a long runway. Yeah. And I put my disclaimer in though. No, I don't encourage anybody else to go out and do this. This is one of those things. Don't try this at home. My point was, I want to show you if you'll put the gear up, lower the nose, and fly the speed. That's what the twin was designed to do. It's not designed to be a VMC rollover. All you have to do is put the gear up and fly the speed, and it's going to work. If you raise the nose and don't raise the gear, you're going upside down. This is not a video to tell you what went wrong. This is a video to show you how to do this. And even on a 160 horsepower twin Comanche, I put Dylan in the left seat. It was his first multi-engine takeoff. Now, I briefed him. I told him some bad things are going to happen on takeoff. But, you know, he was up for it, and he did the whole thing. I said, all you got to do, engine failure, gear up, identify, verify, feather, fly blue line straight ahead, and don't even think about turning. Do not turn. How far out are we going to go? And I think I even said this on tape. I don't care if we have to go until we see the Atlantic Ocean. Keep on flying. We're not doing a thing till we get 1,000 feet and we get some power back on the good one. We'll settle down, level off, bring some power back, run a checklist, and then we're going to make a turn back to the airport. When you make a turn back to the airport with one feather, which way do you turn?
Well, I would not turn into the bad engine,
yes.
But if I had to turn and I kept the turn coordinated, I could turn to either side.
You could. If you had plenty of speed. I recommend raise the dead. Whatever dead engine, raise the dead. So don't don't turn into that dead engine. And that's the 310 accident down in New Mexico a few years ago. The guy takes off 310, loses his left engine, and the controllers tells him to turn left, so he does, and that's where he ends up. Let's talk about your mother. Tell me her name and the whole story. What year was she?
1910, bless her heart, and she still flies with me up here.
Yeah.
You know, and she was one of the very first women pilots, lady pilots,
right?
Female pilots, just pilots, and she got her pilot's license in 1931. She sold her jewelry. She was a nurse in Brooklyn. Sold her jewelry for flight and jumping lessons,
Right.
parachute jumping lessons. She went on to become the first woman to obtain a chute packer's license
Right.
in the United States. It was number 192, so I guess there were 192 men
Yes.
and this young lady. And she was, I think, 21 years old at the time
Right.
when she got her chute packer's license. And you know what I didn't mention to you before, it's very interesting. She never jumped in a chute that she did not personally pack.
Right. Well,
Very interesting. I'm
I
not a
could
jumper, so
understand
you
that.
tell me. And she said that one time somebody handed her a chute.
yeah.
And she said, no, I'm not jumping on that because
Yeah.
I didn't pack it. They
Yeah.
took it apart, it wouldn't have opened.
Yeah.
It's a great story.
Yeah.
Same thing with checking your fuel,
Yeah.
right?
Mhm.
You check your fuel, right?
Yep.
Yeah.
Stop it every
Interesting.
time.
Interesting.
So
Yeah.
your mom was a parachute rigger and a jumper
And
and
a-
a wing walker and a pilot.
And a pilot and a nurse. And
And-
that led to the next story, but go ahead.
Right, and she was a nurse. Later on, she got married. She had a couple of kids, obviously, because you're here today, and then she went on and got her master's degree in.
She became an archaeologist and went
At
all
age-
over
at age
South
what?
America.
What age?
75.
At age
Yeah.
75, she becomes an archaeologist. So
Yeah.
quite the woman, and she participated in air races. I got this picture on the screen here.
yeah.
This is a picture of her, and who's this in the middle of this picture?
Well, that's a lady named Amelia Earhart,
That's
who
Amelia
has some fame,
Yep.
which Gladys Peggy Wilner on the end there did not have.
Yep.
But
She does now.
Peggy was actually critical of Amelia Earhart's flying,
Yeah.
of all things. So
Well, I am too.
there you go. She thought she was heavily promoted, but not that
Well,
good in the air.
she was, but that's a picture
Yeah.
of your
That's
mom.
her on the end,
and
on the left, and Amelia Earhart in the middle, looking kind of like a little child, but
Yep.
she was that kind of a lady.
Yep.
And Mom is on. I don't know who won, although Amelia Earhart's sitting there with the trophy, so I think it's fair to probably she did, or at least it was given to her somehow.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Somehow, but very, very unusual from back in the day. Now this is long before World War II. This is long before the WASPs or any of that kind of
Oh,
thing.
yeah, pre-war.
For a woman to be that involved in aviation, and think of the risk of volunteering to go be a wing walker or a parachute jumper. I mean, you know, she had to get the double take several times. Like, who's jumping out of the airplane?
Well, that's right. And you know, the really interesting thing about some of these stories that come from this era and from her is the time that she didn't go. And you know, you talk about that a lot. There's times when you don't want to go.
Right.
And the time that she didn't go is this fascinating trip that was being put together as a first. In 1934, they were going to fly, they being a group of people under William Randolph Hearst, the publisher, wanted to be the first person whose group flew from New York nonstop to Rome. That's
Right.
about 4,000 miles.
Right.
So they wanted to do a stunt where they would somebody would bail out over Florence, Italy, as Florence Nightingale.
And what were the requirements for that person that they were looking for?
They had to be a pilot
Right.
to fly, to share the flight. They had to be a parachute jumper, and they
Right.
had to be a nurse.
Right.
So they could jump out as Florence Nightingale. And they couldn't find anybody. My mother was the only one.
Yeah.
It was all three of those people.
Yeah, that's
That's pretty weird.
That's-
So anyway, they were practicing for this trip. They bought a plane.
Yep.
William Wyandotte Search bought a plane. By today's standards, only pilots like you would fly it.
Yeah.
And it was a Belanca single engine,
Yep.
no radios.
Yeah.
There were no radios.
Yeah.
And they just would load it with fuel and see if they could take off. If they couldn't,
Mhm.
they'd dump some stuff and try it again. And but in training for this, she, possibly my father-to-be, became concerned that this was not going to be a good operation, and she declined the flight.
Right.
It's an important lesson.
Yeah.
No flight has to be made.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
There is no flight that has to be made.
Right, right. Yeah.
Even though there was all this buildup
Right.
and it's going to be great, blah, 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 we're going to be the first to do it. And she said, no, I'm not going to do it. And they got a replacement for her. And the plane, and they did the flight. It took off from, I think it was actually Floyd Bennett Field, or it might have been Roosevelt Field. None of these exist anymore.
Right.
They're all shopping centers.
Right.
Yeah.
And the plane took off, loaded with fuel, with one pilot now,
Yeah.
because the replacement wasn't the pilot,
Yeah, yeah.
wasn't a jumper. And well, actually, my mother pushed her out of the plane one
Yeah.
day and said, "Okay, she's jumped," but not a nurse, and there they go, and they were last seen on Earth over the Atlantic
Yeah,
a few
yeah. Wow.
miles offshore and never heard
They
from
were
again.
lost. Let me ask you this: Did your mother ever tell you firsthand stories of some of those things that happened back in those days, getting her pilot's license and learning to fly? Did she?
Oh yes, absolutely. In her solo flight, her instructor, who sat behind her at the time,
Right.
to demonstrate, she had 8 hours.
Right.
This was 8 hours in.
Right.
He took his stick
Right.
and unbolted it
Right.
and threw it out of the airplane.
Right. Yeah, I've heard of that.
Have you heard of that? Isn't that insane?
Yeah.
Yeah,
that
and
is-
she saw him. I think he might have hit her with it,
Yeah.
and then over it goes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's your airplane, and he trusted her. He had no control
Yeah.
at that point. I think that's fascinating.
It is, and she did a lot of air races. The 99s still do the air race classic thing to this day, but that started back in the days of the 99s. The name came from those women that started that back in that time. But the air races was a big deal, and it's still a big deal. But your mom participated in all that early stuff and competed. How unusual it would have been for a woman in those years be doing that kind of stuff. I mean, it'd be unusual even today, but back in 1930, I can't imagine finding a woman that's a rigger and a skydiver and a pilot and a nurse.
It was quite a thing. Yeah.
Let alone anybody. I mean,
Yeah.
and then becoming an archaeologist in your
Yeah,
70s.
but she would never tell you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
She would never say a word.
She's had a fascination about
Yeah.
life, it sounds like.
Yeah, it was quite interesting.
Yeah.
Well, you've got some good,
great stories.
some good genes, and you came from a heritage of flying airplanes and the golden days of aviation and all that kind of stuff. Tell me what you've learned about AQP, DMMS, and staying safe in your own airplane. Now, let me ask you this: how imperative is it that you not die in your airplane? How high up the list is that for you?
Well, it's at the top.
Oh, it's at the top.
Yeah.
At least a 7.
Yeah, not dying in the airplane.
Okay.
I got 4,000 safe hours.
Right.
Okay. They're going to stay that way.
Yeah.
They're going to say the hours may go up, but the safe is going to stay
Yeah.
safe in the airplane. I think I've become more conservative
Yeah.
over the years. It's 45 years of safe flying. I've never had an incident where I really needed to be on the ground and was really afraid. So I think that's right.
Yeah.
And it's funny that as I started flying before I heard these terms that you use.
Right.
These terms are the same terms that I'm comfortable with.
Yes.
And for 40 years also I've been an aviation lawyer
Right.
who has investigated hundreds, if not thousands, of accident cases
Right.
on both sides of the law.
Right.
And these concepts are exactly what we've dealt with, only we didn't call them AQP.
Right.
We just call them keep your damn airspeed up.
Yeah.
Don't allow the plane to get out of
Yeah.
control.
Well, you've seen
Hundreds of things.
firsthand the devastating effects of pilots that did not make good decisions and didn't do the right thing, and it results in deaths, lawsuits, problems, bankruptcies, loss to a family. The devastation I've personally seen so many accidents and so many families. I've sat at so many kitchen tables, and all the king's horses and all the king's men can't put Humpty Dumpty back together again. We can't fix it. We can't go back and undo it. And all of them sit there and they all say the same thing. We just wish that we would have stopped him 10 minutes prior. Why didn't somebody get involved? Why did every single time it's the same thing? How come we didn't? And they want to know, what is it we can do to tell the next guy, don't do what we did. It's not worth it. The devastation off of the loss, Lee knows it. The devastation off that. I'm sure you know from your father's accident, you've second guessed it 50 times. How come somebody didn't run out there and put 20 more gallons on each main? How come? How come?
Yeah.
I mean, that's all it would have taken, and we wouldn't even be having this conversation.
Yeah.
But you can't go back and refix it.
Well, it's really interesting because most of the clients, potential clients that would come in after their loved ones were gone, they would come into the office.
Right.
And, today, and I share this view, I don't believe in lawsuits that are not worthy. I really think it's out of control too, but there are legitimate lawsuits. Right. So they would come in. Most of them were not after money. They wanted really to know.
Right.
They wanted to know why, and they wanted it not to happen to somebody else.
Right. Yeah. Right.
And you might not believe that. You think everybody's out for money. They got to have the money. They got to have the money. Most of these people are so devastated.
Right.
A lot of them wouldn't know what to do with the money.
Right.
All they can do is go cry somewhere.
Right.
But they wanted to know,
Right.
and a lot of times we tell them, look, we can't bring your husband or your child back or your brother, whatever it is. But we can investigate and maybe find out what happened.
Yeah.
And if that
Get some
will
closure.
help you, and then if in our investigation it looks like there's negligence on someone else's part, something's happened that shouldn't have happened, we'll discuss that with you.
Yeah.
But really what you want to do is you want to find out something. And you can't, they don't trust anybody at that point. It's everything's let them down.
Yep.
So it's interesting. What you say is exactly right, that people need to know. And one more thing. 10 years ago, I skipped it today. We listen to what you say. There are other broadcasts on that are analyzing these crashes.
Right.
Tremendous help.
Yes.
10, 15 years ago, I didn't hear it.
Right.
I read some NTSB reports,
Right.
but they were old,
Right.
and they were done by government stuff, and it wasn't always that good.
Took 3 years to finish.
It took too long. But now things are really coming together where we're seeing a crash, terrible things happen, and we're getting some expert analysis. Really important.
And also recommendations.
And recommendations.
Well, that is really important to the flying public too.
What do you think? How bad am I going to get beat up? I watched the newscast for the crash in L.A., the Fulton crash. All the newscasters are saying FAA and NTSB is here to investigate, and the family wants answers. The family wants answers. They want closure. They want to know. The NTSB is investigating to try to find out why this accident happened. And I'm sitting there yelling at the TV going, I know why it happened.
Yeah, of course.
I know why it happened.
Yeah.
I'll tell you why it happened is because he stalled the airplane base to final. It's got nothing to do with anything else. This is basic airmanship 101. Am I going to get beat up for saying, look, I'm really sorry. Nice guy, nice daughter, horrible accident, devastating. I'm sorry. He didn't maintain his speed base to final. The next guy needs to hear that message, don't you think?
It's worth,
as soon as possible.
Yes, I wouldn't worry about getting beat up. You're doing okay. You're sitting here. You look all together. Great. Nobody's beating you up.
Well, not yet.
We'll close the door. We'll close the door if they come.
Yeah.
So, what's the harm?
What's the harm
in you coming out and saying, "This is my analysis"?
Yep.
You're not the judge. You're not imposing judgment on anyone.
Right.
You're not telling the NTSB,
Right.
"Oh, tell you what, Dan said something, so you guys are not allowed to say anything." They're going to say whatever they're going to say.
Yeah.
And I think to add to
so
that,
go ahead.
I think the conversations are important too. I think I got my certificate 10 years ago.
Yeah.
It was not that long ago.
Yeah.
And only in the past few years we're starting to see your videos come out, Hoover's videos come out, other video. The Air Safety Institute has done stuff in the past, but the conversations, even if there's disagreement,
Well,
right?
that's
But
right.
until the
That's
reports
right.
come out, at least we can say, okay, this is what we think. We've seen this before.
Yeah.
It's over and over and over again. We need to stop that.
And you know what?
And there's a few of those categories.
You know what the hilarious thing is that the haters out there think that they're making progress by stirring up hate for what I'm doing. All they're doing is stirring up conversation.
Yeah.
They're bringing my story to the
Which is
limelight to make them fight over it so that they can talk about it. I don't care what you call me. I'm going to tell you what I think the deal is. I'm not disparaging the dead. I'm sorry he made a mistake, and I hope the next guy doesn't do it. The haters are actually helping me the most, and they don't get that. They're too stupid to figure that out.
Yeah, it's funny.
Isn't that hilarious?
It's crazy. And to your credit, you have changed your analysis. I've noticed a couple times when more facts come in.
Yep.
And
Yeah,
you
you
say,
change your
well,
mind.
no, that wasn't, I thought this, but now I think that. Fine.
Yeah.
Let's everyone debate. I've never understood that, we can't say anything about this crap.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, it happened.
Yeah.
The EMS services risked their lives to pull people out of airplanes and to get there, and they were at home and enjoying themselves, and now they're out facing flames and terrible things. So you in doing this and crashing your airplane, you've jeopardized people on the ground. You've jeopardized the EMS services. You've stressed the hospitals who bring people in. You've caused a huge impact in the world. So you can't remain anonymous and hide from that.
You know, when we put that on the website, I put that on there very plainly for each accident. I said, this is speculation, it's opinion, it's for educational purposes only. Could be wrong, and it's subject to change. If we get more information later on and we need to change the probable cause, we're just going to change it. As of right now, this is the best information to have. This is what I think happened.
Yeah.
I've been doing this a long time. I've been flying and flight instructing and doing this stuff. I don't have a brain for medical or tech. I have an airplane brain. That's all I got. My brain is.
That's what's in there. It's just an airplane flying
it's just
around.
an airplane flying around.
Yeah,
That's
well,
all I got.
It's good when you're in the airplane.
It's good when I'm in an airplane. It doesn't do me much good at Taco Bell, but that's what it is. So we put that on the website. Thank you again for showing up here.
It's a pleasure.
And yes, sir.
You're doing great.
And thanks for having.
Great to be here. Good to meet you. You're doing a great job.
Oh, I
It's a
try.
fantastic
Thank you so
thing.
much. You too.
Yeah. Can take one more call, then I got a couple quick stories here, and we are going to wind this up real quick. Operators are standing by, so you don't forget, order before midnight tonight.
This is Dustin, who's a student pilot.
Okay. Hello, Dustin.
Hi, Dan. It's nice to meet you. I'm really appreciative of the work that you do, and when I saw this live stream, I wanted to just call in and tell you about an experience that I had. I'm going to kind of keep it vague because I don't really want to say any of my instructors' names throughout this experience, but we were doing some touch-and-go work at a non-towered airport, and as we approached, we did all of the radio calls, and, there was no other traffic in the area, so we proceeded in, started doing our work. About 20 minutes later, a Cessna called in. They came into the downwind as I was on my final, and so we had a nice spacing there, and we were just practicing our patterns, and that went on for about 30 minutes, no hiccups. The incident happened when I was on final approach. Right as I'm about to flare, I see landing lights appear at the approach end of the other runway, or the other side of the runway. And some guy keys the mic and he's like, I'm landing. Had to do an emergency go around.
Now, was this
shaking me up and stayed with me?
what was it? Was this the other airplane? Was this the other airplane that was in the pattern? Was this the other airplane that had previously been in the pattern with you? Was this the other guy that had a problem and he landed opposite direction?
Or is this the third airplane?
No, this was a third party. It was me and a lady in a Cessna. She was on the downwind as I'm flaring for final, and some guy in another Cessna just comes straight down the tube opposite of me. Landing lights come on, and he's there. He announces himself. Had to execute an emergency go-around. Anyways, if it had been just 30 seconds earlier with the lady that was in her Cessna, she was, entering the crosswind
right
phase of the pattern at that time. And, you know, I talked to my instructors. I really just was, you know, scratching my head like, man, what's this? Like, who can we contact? And from what I was told, from what I was led to understand, there's not really anything that I had at my power to make sure that didn't happen again. And, you know, it's shaking me up as a student pilot for sure. And
all right, well, let me ask you a couple questions, Justin. How long ago did this happen?
Close to a year ago.
Okay. All right. I do have some advice for you, and I want you to listen close. You're a student pilot. You got a radio and a headset in here. How much communication did you do with the other airplane other than a position report? And you announced that you were on downwind, or you announced that you were on base. Did you ever talk to the other lady? Did communication ever occur with the other lady?
Yes, every phase of my flight throughout that pattern was communicated, as well as she was communicating with me. We were on the frequency for the communication system at that airport.
Yes.
So,
now,
it was listed on all of the charts. So
yes.
if he would have been tuning into that radio frequency, which he keyed it as he was landing.
Right. Well, I'm trying to make an important point here for you, Dustin. You've said several times that you communicated your position, and that's true. That's a position report. What I'm trying to get the pilots to do is to talk to the other airplanes. There might not have ever been a way for you to know that this third airplane was approaching opposite direction, and that does happen sometimes. That's why we have the concept of see and avoid. When you're landing, when you're on a 1 mile final, you have to look all the way down final and look and see what's out there. If there's an airplane on final opposite direction, even without a landing light on, you're going to see him. And you have to get on your radio and say, who's that on final for whatever runway he was landing on? Get on your radio and talk to that airplane. But your obligation to see and avoid as a student pilot or a private pilot, the entire system is built on no radio. It's built on see and avoid. If you have a radio and you can communicate, I want you to talk to the other airplane, ask them a question. Are you going first? Do you want me to go first? How is this going to work? What would you like to do? Do you want me to extend my downwind? You can ask a question. On the radio, I've said, are you having a nice day? Question mark. If you say, are you having a nice day? They will answer you every time. And then that's communication. When you ask a question and they answer and you answer back, that's communication. Let's work something out. Your obligation as a student pilot in the traffic pattern is see and avoid. I wish airplanes didn't even have radios. I want you to get your eyes outside the airplane, pay attention to what's going on outside the airplane, fly the airplane, look around you, see that airplane. It was Davy afar. Look out the window, and it's going to happen again to you. That wasn't the first time that's going to happen. That wasn't the only time that's going to happen. That was just the first one. It's going to happen again. Guys landing opposite directions on a straight in is common, and you're going to see it. But the setup for this, where you failed, was you did not see far enough down the runway in advance. He doesn't need a landing light on for you to see him. I guarantee you can see him at least 3 miles away. Keep your eyes peeled and look and figure out where that airplane is supposed to be. And they're going to be there. You keep on looking. Does that make sense to you?
Yes, sir. And, you know, it's really catalyzed me to improve my systems and to pay attention more.
Yes, yes.
For a situation like that, because my instructor was with me as well, and it was dusk, and like the color of his aircraft, I also believe it was a combination of him flying at or below pattern altitude, because he was extremely low.
Yeah,
when we finally saw those lights.
Yep. And if I may add, something that I've always told myself, I'm an IFR pilot. I almost never fly VFR. I'm not a cowboy like Dan, but I think I never trust anybody else. You are responsible for the safety of your flight, seeing and avoiding traffic, and it's going to happen out in the practice area. Somebody's going to do some erratic maneuvers. You're not going to know where they're going, and they're going to be coming straight toward you. So just that I mean, whatever.
I wish I could tell you that that's never going to happen to you again. The sad thing is that in the traffic pattern, it's going to happen again. I would avoid flying at dusk if you can. Fly in daylight, better weather, especially as a student pilot. Keep your eyes peeled. Look all the way down the runway. Keep on scanning the downwind. Scan the base. Try to figure out if there is somebody left to base opposite direction, where are they going to be? Take a look out the windshield. You're going to see that conflict long before you can even see it on TCAS, because we have these things called eyeballs. I'm not much of a fan of foreflight and staring at your iPad while you're flying. Get your head and your eyeballs outside the airplane. Look for the other airplanes because they're going to be there. We don't have a way of preventing those other airplanes from being there. I'm very glad that you didn't hit them, but the fact that you had an instructor with you and you didn't see the other airplane until they turned their landing light on tells me that you got very, very close together, and you probably could have seen that airplane a little bit earlier. There's your takeaway. Jump on that thing and look straight ahead. I guarantee you're going to see where that airplane is. Were they wrong? Yes, they were wrong. Absolutely, they were wrong. I'm just saying, don't be dead wrong. You can be right, but don't be dead right. You were doing the right thing, but these things are definitely going to happen. Hey, Dustin, I got to jump out of here, but I do appreciate your call, and I really appreciate you letting me beat you up in public. How's that, huh?
Yes, sir, no problem.
Yeah,
Anywhere
only 600
I can
people.
improve, I'm open to that. Thank you, Dan.
Yes, sir. Thank you. Thanks for calling.
Yeah.
Bye-bye.
Yeah, don't let others kill you, I think is the moral of the story.
Yeah, and especially traffic pattern, see and avoid. We're going to wrap up here real quick, but I'm going to tell a couple quick 2024 stories. The data set has been huge. It's been a tremendous workload. If you can afford to give a small donation to the DTSB, it's 501c3, and we would very much appreciate that. There's a GoFundMe Super Fund for that. If you do a Google search on GoFundMe, the DTSB Super Fund, they'll take PayPal, Venmo, all that kind of thing. All that money goes into the DTSB. It doesn't go to me. It goes into that fund to pay for these kind of programs that we can get out and make this educational content free. Right now, I don't have anything for sale. We don't have any books, materials, headsets. I don't do sponsorship. I don't advertise. I don't have a revenue income for the DTSB myself. Having my expenses covered on the road to go out and do these things and speak to these things is critically important so that it's not always coming out of my pocket, which it's okay if it has to, but I'd like to at least get my expenses covered as we go forward. I was able to take a couple trips this year. One of them was for Tenerife. I went over to Tenerife. That's where the two 747s collided. Had a great time. Met up with 5 YouTube followers, fans that followed me over to Spain there. And we went and spent 3 days traipsing around in Spain doing the Tenerife thing. The one thing I'll tell you about Tenerife in a 30-second nutshell, I never realized that after those two 747s happened and collided, that same runway was opened back up and the wreckage was cleared 48 hours later.
Wow.
Like 48, you know why? They had to have the runway. They took bulldozers and bulldozed those airplanes out. We found the mass burial spot. There's nothing left of those bodies and they're burnt and decaying. They took every piece of human remains, pulled it out of the wreckages, and they dug one pit, and we found the mass burial grave, its mark. They dug a big hole in the ground, and that's where all the bodies went. That's how horrific that crash was. 583 people dead because 2 airplanes ended up head-to-head and didn't know it and did not communicate. It's a communication error. If they had jumped on the radio on the same frequency and said, I'm here, what are you doing, let's work this out. If they'd asked a question, hey, KLM, where are you going? What are you doing? We're holding short. If a communication had occurred, we never would have had Tenerife. The entire accident was based on no communication. Did the KLM captain take off without a clearance? I think that he rightfully thought that he had a clearance. The Pan Am crew also thought that they just gave him a takeoff clearance. That's how vague the thing was. The Pan Am crew actually said, did they just give him a takeoff clearance? Yes, KLM thought they had a takeoff. Obviously, the guy's not going to commit suicide. He didn't intentionally hit the other airplane. He thought that he had a takeoff clearance. But it's ironic that in the haste to get that accident cleaned up in the 70s, there's no DNA, there's no dental records, there's nothing we can do. There's no point in trying to identify the pieces of these bodies. They dug one big hole, and we found the mass burial grave. I also found the location where both 747s are buried and covered with dirt. That's all they could do. What are you going to do with 2 747 carcass wreckages? It's huge. They dug one big hole, pushed both airplanes in there and covered it up with dirt, and they don't want to talk about it. A horrific accident, all caused by lack of communication that we could still learn from today. The other accident we'll talk about real quick is the Lockheed crash, June 17th. If you want to see my scar, I was in a Lockheed crash. Did I learn a little bit off of that? Yes, I did. Pilot error on my part, even though I wasn't the pilot. I should have tested the brakes before I land. Normally on an experimental or a Warbird or a Radial or one of these unusual antique airplanes, before I touch down, I put my feet up on the pedals and I feel the brakes just to make sure everything feels good. Did I do it that time? No. I did not. I wasn't
Takes
flying.
one time. Takes one time.
And my feet, I was in the right seat. My feet were not anywhere near the pedals. But yes, what a horrific deal. Now after that crash, everybody's injured. Everybody's in pain. I'm covered in 100 low lead fuel. My head's cut open. All this bad stuff. I totally thought I was going to die because the right engine would not shut down. The right engine's running and backfiring. We finally got the right engine shut down, and they got some water squirted, all that kind of stuff, and I started to feel like, well, maybe we do have a chance. But then it took an hour and 40 minutes to get me out of that wreckage. But that was 6 months ago now. I'm mostly healed back. Everything's totally good, and I'm back up and walking, and everything's good. So that was June 17. That was my recap for 2024. A whole bunch of bad stuff happened. A whole bunch of good stuff happened. Lee, I'm very, very happy with the progress of DTSB, and I just want to tell you thank you very much for your friendship and support. It really, you and I, it all started with your father's accident for you, and it started with the other accident for me that built this to where it's at, and I appreciate your helping with the tech capability on this. And you and I'm going to do some music scoring for his film that's coming up. I'm going to get to do some music parts and write the music for his film, which I'm totally looking forward to doing that. That's going to be totally fun. When is that film coming out?
We're hoping for June to have our first premiere. So we'll get some more details out whenever that's ready.
And how long is the film?
It's going to be about 2 hours.
2 hours? Okay.
Yeah. It was originally a series, but now we've taken probably about a year just to like reshape the whole thing.
Well, it's amazing. It's a great story. I hope you'll watch the premiere when that thing comes out. And I'm hoping I can contribute a little bit on the music side of that thing. It'll be
super excited about
totally good to do. We're going to wrap this up. Anything else from the peanut section that we need to cover here? Anything?
We got a lot of great stories. I mean, a lot of people. I've been reading these throughout the night, and a lot of people have stories of situations that they've been in.
Yep.
Thank you, everybody, for being vulnerable and sharing that sort of stuff with your name public and everything. But thanks for all of your input. Thank you, everybody, for being here. And what an incredible year. Glad you're okay. You got a cool Harry Potter scar now.
I do.
And lots of lessons to learn from. So
yeah. Well, let's do better in 2025. If you look at that DTSB dataset website, it shows you in real time what the fatal accident rate per month is constantly. It's prorated right down to the day based on the number of accidents we've had compared to how many days we've already consumed in the year so far. So that number is going to be live. It'll be updated at midnight every night. If you want to know how we're doing relative to that 12 goal for next year, that block will always show you exactly right down to 3 decimal places where we're at. The whole website is going to remain interactive and updated. So if you want to know the latest on the latest general aviation accident with a probable cause and a recommendation, Dan's probably got one on there within a few days. I'm probably going to tell you exactly what that guy did. Beat me up if you want to, but that's most of these are pretty easy to see.
Yeah.
Most of them.
History repeats itself.
History repeats itself.
We're not as unique as we'd like to think.
So I appreciate it. Let's get out of here. I wish I had the banjo closer music on this thing.
Yeah, we got the guitar. we got some spa music that I've had for some reason on my laptop. So we'll go to spa music.
All right, sounds good. Everybody have a great night.
Good night,
Thank
everybody.
you.